Okay, in this demonstration, I'm going to be discussing auditory masking, which refers to the phenomenon when a target signal is overtaken or masked by another audio signal that has a greater amplitude or a greater frequency range. So there's two main types of auditory masking. One's called simultaneous and the other is called temporal. So simultaneous is what I'm going to start and try to demonstrate. That refers to two sounds that are happening basically at the same time. And the masking signal would be overtaking the target signal by just becoming louder than it. So we just have a little frequency range picture over here. We got frequency on the x-axis and amplitude on the y-axis and a sine wave generator. So I'm going to be playing a sine wave at 360 hertz or cycles per second, and it looks like that. And so we can see that it's staying at around negative 40 decibels relative to the source volume. And then I have a second sine wave that's going to be oscillating at 440 hertz, and I'm going to gradually bring that up, and you're not going to be able to hear it first, really, but you'll be able to see it on the display, and then gradually it'll get louder and louder until it masks the original 360 hertz signal. So let's see that in action. So we can see the original signal, but we can't really hear it now. So that was simultaneous masking. And that was a very small example. We can think of this in everyday life as if you're trying to talk to someone in a crowded room or at a concert venue. Your voice is the target signal, and then all that background noise would be the masking signal. So in this case, I could play another audio signal, which in this case is a song. And then so we can see my voice in here, and my bass line is around 48 decibels. And then we can gradually increase the volume of the music until you can't hear my voice. Blah, blah, blah. Okay. So as you could see, if I stayed talking at the same level, my voice would be masked by the greater noise threshold that was being imposed by the music, which was louder than my voice and was drowning it out. So that was simultaneous masking. Now we're going to move on to temporal masking. Oh, hello there. So today we're going to be talking about temporal masking, which is different from simultaneous masking in that it's still a form of auditory masking. However, in this case, the two sounds are occurring non-simultaneously. So this is mostly applied to music that has a lot of transients, and a transient is a sudden output in a amplitude level of a signal. So that's usually caused by percussive sounds like snare drums and bass drums, or with the attack of a pluck of a violin, or snaps or claps. So when you look at a sound output diagram, transient will sometimes look like this. So you got the bass and then like a boom, and then it goes down and then it stops. So you've got your attack, you've got your kind of decay of the signal. So what temporal masking is referring to is masking that's caused by this signal either before or after the signal. So we could say that this signal is the masking signal. Put that right there. And then we have another smaller signal that is going to be acting as the target signal. So say this is a bass drum, and then we also have a clap. So if the clap occurs at a similar time, but say the clap occurs like here, but it's smaller, it could potentially be masked by the sound of the bass drum hit, because the bass drum has a larger amplitude. So if the clap occurs after the original hit, it's what's called forward masking. And forward masking can occur within 200 milliseconds after the original beginning of the transient. There's also something that's called backward masking, and that's much shorter. That can occur 20 milliseconds before the original signal. So that clap could have the potential to be masked if it was 20 milliseconds before or even 180 milliseconds after. However, that's very unlikely with a signal like this, as you know, you'll hear the original bass drum hit, and then you'll probably be able to hear the transient caused by the clap afterwards. So that is temporal masking. These forms of auditory masking are very important to the process of MP3 compression because it allows compressors to take a much larger audio sample size and compress it down to a smaller format like MP3. And it does so by taking bits or pieces of data away from less important parts of the audio mixed down that we can't hear as well. So for instance, things that are being masked are assigned less bits of data than things that aren't masked that are more important and more in the forefront. And so while taking bits away from a audio signal can cause degradation or distortion, because these parts of the signal are being masked and thus can't be heard very effectively by human ears, we can't hear this distortion either, which is what makes a large reduction in file size possible.